Who else has a question or idea?
I did want to ask, trying to figure out why is it so hard for people to understand this is really happening, and the people in the legislature, instead of voting on party lines and staying with specific groups that they always tend to vote with, why not just come together and pass something that's sensible that can really help the environment? Because we as individual people, yeah, we can help by voting in the right people, but once y'all get up there, y'all have to kind of come together and work together to get stuff passed. There's too much infighting going on that nothing gets accomplished. Trying to figure out why is it so hard for people to understand this is really happening, and the people in the legislature, instead of voting on party lines and staying with specific groups that they always tend to vote with, why not just come together and pass something that's sensible that can really help the environment? Because we as individual people, yeah, we can help by voting in the right people, but once y'all get up there, y'all have to kind of come together and work together to get stuff passed. There's too much infighting going on that nothing gets accomplished.
So that, at least in the Virginia legislature, there's not as much infighting as you would think. What you end up reading in the newspaper are issues about abortion, gay marriage, issues that are polarizing, issues where while the consensus might be growing, the consensus isn't there across the state. And so naturally there are going to be some pretty harsh divisions in the legislature on those issues. But the other thing I would say to you is that you can't just send us there and leave us there. Politics is a contact sport. You have to stay in contact. How else can I say it? Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and never will. You have to stay in contact with us. You have to say, look, Donald, I sent you there. This is what I need from you. I need you to vote right on this issue or that issue. This stuff is easy in concept, but it's hard to execute. And the reason it's hard to execute is please don't throw stones at me, but you would rather watch Monday Night Football than send me an email, right? You would rather do something else than call me, send me a carrier pigeon message, a smoke signal, anything. What you want to do is send me to Richmond and let me do everything and then come back and tell you what happened. It doesn't work that way, folks. For the stuff that we are asking for, you and I want to accomplish, it doesn't work that way. When you do that, you allow the status quo to prevail. Because somebody else is making demands on us. Somebody else is writing an email, or they're coming down to the legislature every day, knocking on your door, saying, how you doing, Donald? How's your family? Look, I got this little bill here. Can I get your help? That's happening. The question is whether you're going to take the time to maybe at halftime of Monday Night Football, send me an email. Are you going to take the time of all days, folks? MLK Day. Everybody's got it off. Everybody's down at the General Assembly except who? And I love you folks, but you're not there. You are not there on MLK Day. We got the gun folks. We got everybody. We got Lottie Dottie and everybody except the environmental community coming down on MLK Day. It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. So we need you down there. We need you writing emails. We need you to be active participants in this process. It's not going to happen unless you get active and remain active. And I apologize for that. I wish I had another message, but this is work that goes on 365 days out of the year. And if you take time off, bad things happen.
GA, but in this upcoming General Assembly, last year we saw food desert studies and utility bills being disputed. What can we be expecting in the upcoming General Assembly so that either we can be behind you, collectively or individually?
I can get where, believe it or not, the environmental community and Dominion Virginia Power came together on a bill concerning EPS. We didn't get it done because, quite frankly, some egos got in the way because they didn't think of the idea. So that bill will be back. I can't really tell you everything that's going to happen, and let me tell you why. I haven't had my meeting with the environmental stakeholders yet, but every year we invite CCAN and some other folks to lunch, brown bag lunches, nothing fancy. I pay for it, they're not paying for it. And we sit down and we talk about what should the agenda be, where are we going to focus our energies. And it's CCAN, it's the Legal Conservation Voters, and there's a lot of other environmental groups that attend that meeting, and we sort of formulate an agenda. So you all right now have the ability to dictate what's going to happen next year by being a part of CCAN, by being a part of other environmental organizations, and letting them know what you think ought to be happening. But again, you can't just say, y'all go do this. It has to be, we are going to do this.
On the top of the James Center there, from the boulevard, you can see down near Petersburg a mountain, the tallest thing on the horizon down there. I think that's Mount Trashmore. I'm not sure. I wish you would find out for me, because if it is, it's a trash dump. And then when you go across the James River Bridge, the biggest thing you see on the horizon is trash dump out in Ranko County. I'm thinking of people power helping the environment by having sort of an idea fair. We have job fairs all the time. It's going in kind of a different direction, but it is about environmental. My idea is to more or less renew things, recycle things. We throw away computers, cell phones, weed eaters, everything we throw away. Manufacturing, Richmond has a wonderful manufacturing base. You talk about the billionaire who's come to town. People, the question was, why don't people know more about the global warming or dismiss it? If you put money in people's pockets and give them jobs, so my thing is to create a idea fair where people come to corporations, bring them out with the businesses in town, and let people come up with ideas that they can do here in Richmond to reduce the waste going to the city dumps or the county dumps or wherever, and bring jobs into and create jobs and opportunities for themselves. That's what I would like to see happen here. Is that something that you think is possible?
Sort of interaction with ideas. So it's certainly something that's worthy of some thought and maybe some organizing. I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I know you can hear.
Believe it or aware of it. And I think that from my experience, a lot of people see it. What they disagree with is that it is having a negative impact. They think it's just part of the global cycle. And they're not looking at the data from 400,000 years ago, or you know what I mean? They're looking at just, oh, it's just part of the normal cycle. And I was, timely enough, just yesterday I was having a political debate with a friend of mine, and she mentioned about legislation regarding environmental issues, and we had a little argument, but her big thing was, you know what, the corporate world will fix it. She honestly believes, and she's not alone. I mean, you know, like you, I get a lot of name calling in my family and among my friends. But no, she really believes the corporate world will fix what needs to be fixed. And if the corporate world doesn't fix it, it must not need fixing. So that's why she is voting against potential legislation. So my personal mission is to make sure that I engage as many of these people in conversation as possible, to hopefully share more evidence to the contrary. But.
Yeah, I think to bridge that answer is, in Virginia, the largest entity responsible for our climate pollution, for our greenhouse gases, is Dominion Power, and that's just by the numbers. Just by the numbers. They emit more greenhouse gas emissions than anyone else. Dominion is also a regulated monopoly. That's why you can't choose who your utility is. They're regulated by law and by policy. And so we can't separate, oh, the corporations will just do it. Senator McEachin mentioned the State Corporation Commission. There's a lot of policy and a lot of decision makers at play. We need to work on changing policy if we're going to change Virginia's energy future. Yeah.
If anybody thinks that the free market is better than the government, they haven't been in a doctor's office recently, and they haven't read Gilbert recently, in my view. But my personal question is, about 6 weeks ago or so, there was a workshop that was done out at Virginia Union on larger scale solar installations for, I believe that they're for commercial and school applications. And I'm with a group called Richmond Co-Housing, and we're, and just to make it kind of a short description, we're trying to bring sort of a communal co-housing development where each person owns their individual house to Richmond. And I was wondering if the co-housing development were big enough, if a collection of private homes could slide in under that kind of a program. I don't know.
You're talking about rooftop solar?
Right.
You know,
Or if you feel like using part of your front yard or part
Right.
of your area.
Right. I do know that, I don't know a lot about that yet because we haven't gone as far as we need to in Virginia, even broached the subject in my view. I think North Carolina, interesting enough, as many problems as they have, they're further along on that issue than we are. But I do think that you're right, it has to, the sort of underpinnings of your question are if you have enough mass, can you get it done? Like, if you can put it on top of Walmart buildings or big buildings that have a lot of surface area, yes. So I would imagine if we structure it right and you have enough little places together to give you enough square footage, you can probably do that. But I don't know the answer to that.
And so you're talking about like some sort of, correct, like community solar or establishing, taking residential, like a group of residential homes, grouping together with solar and distributing the generation amongst themselves. It's like a community solar program. That's
Pretty much.
something, right.
Or feeding it back into the grid. There's
It's fed back to the grid, and maybe the utility would pay the homeowner or owners for the excess power.
Well, and that's something I know that Dominion's been fighting against harder than almost any utility in the country.
It's complicated. The utilities don't like getting into the technical details. The short answer is yes. We are working on that issue in Virginia. Maybe something we talk to you about at lunch, if I'm invited back graciously.
More practical or realistic solutions, whether legislatively or economically, that are out there for Virginia specifically, as far as climate change and environmental issues go.
Writing a letter or, being your citizen lobbyist or something, like what's a more practical application for that kind of effort? Because I think sometimes, I'm taking the words out of your mouth, maybe, but I think that it's too often as environmentalists, quote unquote, we're looked at as being flippant, ideological, and the things that we do are sometimes either above or below what what the lobbyists that are going for utilities, they're going months before the GA's even started. They've got their policy in all the politicians' ears before we even get there. So when we get there, what is the best way to influence you guys to get our message heard just as well as the guys in the suit should have been there for months before?
So this is not the answer. Some things about your question that are wrong, I apologize. But again, I have to go back to what I said before. Just like you said, the people who are lobbying on other issues are doing it year-round. The environmental community has to do it year-round. Whether it's meeting your legislator, because I know you're thinking, well, they're not going to meet with me. The heck they won't. Try to meet with them. I bet you dollars to donuts, especially in this area, and that's not because everybody's green. But in this area, you can get a meeting with your legislator, especially if it's not necessarily one-on-one, but 10 or 15 folks who want to go and talk to your legislator about something. But my point is this. Remember what I said. You have to stay in contact. I never said just show up in January. I talked to you about being there before they get elected, being there while they're trying to get elected, and then being there after they're elected. It is a 365-day process. And does that mean you've got to do something every day? Literally, no, it doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is you cannot expect to not work in February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and show up in January and make a difference. That's not going to happen. Not unless that's just not going to happen. There's no such scenario that's going to happen unless there's some cataclysmic event and everybody's running in the same direction anyway. So if you want to make a difference, it's sort of like talking about erosion. You know how the water can just sort of drip on a pebble and the pebble will eventually erode? Well, think of the General Assembly as that pebble and you as the drop of water. You just gotta keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and it'll happen.
The gentleman mentioned earlier about how politics can be affected by capital. And I liked your answer about how you can come back and say, well, conservation can be a way of generating capital. I like that a lot, and I think that a lot of people need that. When you're trying to persuade other people that it matters, you need to make the point that we're at a point now where it's a crossroads. It's time now for the change to happen. I think there was a time when environmental change was pie in the sky. There wasn't the technology to support it. The solar technology wasn't there to support it. And now it is. There's a car company called Tesla, which has upped its stock value 400% this year. It's been regarded as the best car made in the world. And a lot of people don't even know about it. It's a plug-in electric car. The future is here, and the future is green. And we can make money, and we can be a world leader by pursuing this pathway. And people don't even know it.
Last time I checked, that car was